All right, today is December 6, 2018. This is the meeting of the Kubernetes CSI this is the meeting of the Kubernetes SIG Storage group. So today we're going to go over the Q4 tasks that we've committed to and get an end of quarter status on them. And then we're going to review PRs that need attention, designs that need attention, any open questions, and discuss KubeCon Seattle, which is going on next week. If there's anything that you want to talk about in any of these categories or anything else, please feel free to add to the agenda as we go. First of all, a huge congratulations to the group for working so hard to get CSI to GA this quarter. We were able to successfully get that into 1.13, and then block volume support also moved to beta. So a huge congratulations to everyone who worked really hard to get that done. Let's get a more specific update for each of the tasks that we committed to. Let's start off with this, the CSI driver for VMware. We wanted to get an end of status update on this. Is Vlad on the call by any chance? Or is anybody else from VMware who might be able to give an update on this driver? Okay, we'll leave that then, and we'll get a status update at some other point. Next up is the Kubernetes conformance process, establish processes, tests, documentation. Any updates on this? Michelle, do you happen to know where this ended up?
I don't think there was any work in this area.
Okay. So we'll mark this as not started?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Okay. So we'll pick that up next quarter. Next up is CSI Driver updating the Iscuzzy library to use the lib. But before that, let's talk about the CSI Iscuzzy common library to alpha. That was completed. And then John, were you able to also get the Iscuzzy driver updated to use the library? Looks like John might not be on the line. Does anyone else have an update on this? Maybe Ben?
I haven't been following it since I reviewed the code.
Okay.
I think the last place it needed a new home in GitHub. Did it ever get that new home?
I think the repo got created, but I haven't seen any PRs on it. I can take a quick look just to verify. So that's the library. That's the driver.
Oh, yeah. Are there any commits in the library?
Let's take a look. So the library looks like it is good. There is the library there. So I guess the library is complete, but the updating of the driver hasn't been done yet. So
okay,
we'll mark this as not started, and we can pick that up next quarter. So good progress. It was a short quarter, so I'm sure there's going to be small things that we didn't end up finishing.
Oh, this is still tracking Q4. Okay, I see.
Yes, this is last quarter, or this past quarter. All right, next up is dynamic max volume, dynamic max capacity per plugin per node count. Hemant, are you on the line?
Yeah, so I've opened an issue in GitHub like for CSI, but I think we need to take it up, make a CSI change. So we will have to take this up in the next quarter. We didn't make much progress in this quarter.
Okay, sounds good. And next up, we have CSI adding support for volume expansion.
Yeah, so the spec got merged, but we have to, there's already some bit of resize controller done, but we have to get a new release of CSI as well. So
cool. So we can follow up on that next quarter, maybe get a CSI 1.01 or 1.01. I'm not sure what the next version is going to be called.
Yeah.
1.1.
Yeah.
Okay. That looks good. Next up is AWS EBS CSI Driver. I know Nishi and her team were pushing hard on this quarter, and I think Cheng might have been working on this as well as Fabio. Is anyone able to give an update on end of quarter status here?
Yeah, here's Shen. So we did an alpha release for the CSI driver. And it's tracking like CSI 0.3 now.
It is 0.3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, by the way, do you have plans to implement snapshots in this driver?
Yeah, we are planning doing like next quarter.
Oh, okay, great. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Cheng. That is super exciting. So we'll go ahead and mark that as done, and then next quarter we'll pick it up and hopefully move it to beta and pick up CSI 1.0.
Yeah.
For Azure Disk and Azure File CSI drivers, I think we ended up dropping those because we had nobody working on them for the quarter. So we're going to skip over those. Begin implementing the migration of the in-tree plugins to CSI. So again, I think Cheng, David, and Deep were working on this. Can any one of you give an update on this?
Yeah, I think it's a work in progress at the moment. We had some initial PRs done, but basically the alpha is scheduled for the next quarter. So pretty much the PRs were on hold. There were initial round of reviews done, but nothing got merged last quarter.
Okay, so we'll keep this as started, and then we'll get updates on this later. There are a bunch of items that are missing from my spreadsheet. Oh, I think it's collapsed. There was a trick to undoing that. Turn off filters. Okay. All right, next up is beginning implementation. We talked about that. CSI External Provision.
There's a bunch, when you uncollapsed it, there was a bunch of new stuff.
Oh yeah, I see it at the top. Okay. We can review these again. Number one is CSI in-tree block volume support moved to beta. We ended up not doing this. I think it was pretty close, but we were pretty tight with the CSI GA, so we ended up putting this off. Ben, do you have anything else to add to that?
Well, we still need to get block support into the host path driver. That was the missing piece.
Okay.
I think we didn't know if there was an EDE test, and I thought that there wasn't, but it turned out that there was, but we couldn't run it because none of the gate test drivers had block support on which it could be run. So either the GCEPD driver or the host path driver, one of those drivers, if we get block support into it, then we can just run the existing tests and say, yes, it's done.
Okay, that seems reasonable. So we'll go ahead and move beta to next quarter for this. Looks like we were pretty close, so I'll keep it marked as started. Next up is, we talked about the VMware vSphere driver already. Next up is the library for moving the mount library to external common. Travis, any updates on this?
Oh, sorry.
No, I was gonna say I'm not sure if Travis is online. I know last I heard from him, he was working on this, but I have no idea where it's at.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen any updates on this for a while.
Okay. Do we know if the library actually got put into an external repo?
No, we need to do this first.
Oh, okay. This is the staging setup.
We need to refactor the library first before we can pull it out.
Got it. Okay. So we'll keep this as marked as started. Vlad, I just heard you on the call. Can you talk about the VMware driver?
The CSI driver work is currently ongoing right not and I believe we're shooting for an early, not an early release, but for an alpha this quarter. So we'll see where it lands, but it's being actively developed.
End of year. Okay, cool. We'll mark that as started.
Mm-hmm.
Pluggable end-to-end test framework. This was, let's see, refactored end-to-end to use outside, partially done refactor volume tests. Some work remaining to make it useful outside of K8s. So Patrick or Michelle, any updates on that?
Yeah, so this quarter, we made a lot of good progress on this. It's still not completely there yet, but we're getting close.
Okay.
So I think probably by, I think definitely in 114, we should be able to have something usable.
Cool. Do we want to call this complete for the quarter or started? I guess started makes sense here.
Yeah, started is fine.
Okay. We already discussed the conformance stuff, provisioning capacity reporting for generic topology.
So this has pretty much stalled, and I think we need to find a new owner for it. So if anyone is interested in this, please let me know. This is needed in order to be able to do local storage dynamic provisioning.
So if anyone's depending on local storage and is interested in dynamic provisioning, this is probably something you should look into helping out with in the next quarter. Next up is CSI External Containers, move leader election to lease object. Matt, any updates on that? Okay, so I think what ended up happening was on the sidecar containers, we disabled leader election by default. And so if you opt into leader election, it requires the Kubernetes service object, and you are required to update your RBAC rules to ensure that you have access to that object. But by default, leader election is disabled, so you don't have to do that. But as far as I can tell, this work was not completed. So we'll keep this as marked as started and move it to the next quarter. Next up is Subpath Expansion.
So the CAP has been submitted for this,
Mhm.
and we're starting work for 114.
Cool. And I guess the goal here was design, so seems like that's been accomplished. Update the Iscuzzy Driver. We talked about that. We talked about these. Begin implementing migration. CSI External Provisioner Topology support for Kubernetes to beta. That ended up not. Actually, did we end up doing that?
So
No, it's
the
still
code
alpha.
was, yeah, it's still alpha, basically.
Okay. Do we know what's remaining?
We need to figure out what to do about the admission webhook, how to get that installed, and also we need the E2E tests.
Okay. Okay, cool. So it looks like there was a lot of good work done here, but we'll keep that in alpha this quarter and move it next quarter. CSI Driver for Fibre channel and update it to use the library and update it to do 0.3 changes. Methusen?
Yeah, the Fibre channel library got merged to the repo and
Oh, cool.
CSI.
Okay.
But I think the driver would need, because right now it's in my own repo. So, so I think it would need a separate home. So
Okay. So I think if we look in Kubernetes-CSI, there's already a repo there. that you should be able to use. Let's take a look. So there should be FC. So there's the library, and right now it should be empty, but feel free to send out a PR to that. Oh, looks like there. Oh, this is the library. Okay, so this is the one that you created.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's take a look at FC. Oh, looks like we don't have a driver for FC. Okay. Reach out to me. We'll get that created, and then you can proceed from there.
Okay.
We can do that next quarter. No big deal. Okay, next up, how to test Fibre channel Iscuzzy NFS libraries. So I think there was a weekly call set up. Brad, do you want to give an update on this?
Sure. So we've been doing calls and status on this, and it's been making pretty good progress. We're not complete yet. My plan was to kind of meet informally at KubeCon and go over what we've been working on, and then kind of come up with the next steps. This might be like another or a good topic for that informal SIG.
Yeah, that would be perfect. All right, cool. Thanks, Brad. We'll mark it as started then. Next up is Flex Resize support. This got merged. There was a known issue that was discovered afterwards, but as far as I understand, this is complete. Hemant, do you have anything to add? Or Aniket?
So be good. I think it got done, and there's the flex.volume.router that the spec has to be and the documentation has to be updated.
Okay.
Is
there an issue tracking that, or is someone working on it?
There's an issue tracking it.
Okay.
I hope someone from IBM takes a look at it, but yeah, they opened the issue, so yeah.
Got it.
I'll link the issue here.
Perfect. Thank you. Next up is improving node shutdown handling. Unfortunately, we didn't make too much progress on this. Jingshu created a proposal for how to handle this more holistically. That proposal requires cooperation from SIG Node because a lot of the work there is from SIG Node. So the next steps here is to share that proposal with SIG Node. I'm not sure if Jing is on the line or if she wants to add anything else.
I think she already presented in front of SIG Node.
Okay. Do you know how that went over?
I was not in the call, but I spoke with Derek Carr afterwards, and there's some concerns and there's some comments in the proposal itself actually. So,
okay.
So those comments I have added in the Zinx document,
Okay, so we'll keep that marked as started and move that to the next quarter. Moving topology to GA. Michelle, any updates on that?
Yeah, it's done.
Awesome. Okay, that is done. Continue working on snapshots. Shing, do you want to give an update on this?
Yeah, so we added deletion protection for volume snapshot and volume snapshot content. And also we have a retention policy for volume snapshot content. So those.
Sorry, what was that second part?
The detention policy for the content. Or retention policy or reclaim policy.
Okay.
And yeah, so that's it.
Cool. And there were some breaking changes in CSI and on the CRDs.
Yeah, those are fixed.
Just as a FYI to the rest of the community.
Okay.
So if you implemented an early version of the Snapshot Alpha, please know that this quarter Snapshot still remains in Alpha. There were breaking changes made between CSI 0.3 and 1.0. And the CRDs for volume snapshot also had breaking changes. If you're using a older driver that was using the initial version of Snapshot,
There's a background noise that's making it hard to hear, Saad.
let me see if I can mute someone. Okay.
It got better.
Right. So if you had a driver that you already have in or you were using, it should continue to work. But when you upgrade to CSI 1.0, your driver will need to be updated, and you need to update to the new external snapshot or sidecar container, which contains the new CRD. And then these two features are just part of Kubernetes 1.13. So we'll call that done. Next up is automated end-to-end testing of sidecar containers, both major and minor versions. I think we are kind of doing this now with the end-to-end testing in Kubernetes, but there still needs to be work done to add end-to-end tests into the sidecar container repos. I don't know if Patrick was able to make any progress on this, but I haven't heard anything recently. I think this is work that'll spill over into the next quarter. CSI spec moved to 1.0, so that was completed. CSI is now 1.0. CSI in-tree move CSI persistent volume source and volume attachment objects to V1. This was completed. The caveat here is that the callers must be updated in next release. So even though the API was updated, apparently you're not allowed to update the callers in the same release. So we're going to have to do this in a follow-up release, which will be next release 1.14. Kubelet device registration mechanism to GA. This was a lot of work, but it also ended up getting done. Thanks to Vlad for all his hard work on that. So purged. And next up is the CRD installation mechanism. We have a temporary workaround, which is the Cube add-on that we added, which will automatically install the CRD. And until we have a better mechanism, we're going to continue to use that. Next up is moving CSI Driver and CSI NodeInfo objects from alpha to beta. We ended up not doing that, or not completing it at least. So we're going to punt that to the next quarter. Due to lots of changes to CSI NodeInfo. We did move this, we'll move to beta next release. So the NodeInfo object, which is alpha, changed a lot between 1.12 to 1.13. If you're looking at that object, heads up. Next up is moving RBAC role definitions from Kubernetes to external repos. This is on track. I think, Vlad, you're working on, or is it Patrick who's been working on it?
Which one is this? I'm sorry.
This is the RBAC role definitions.
That should be done.
Okay. Cool. So for those of you who are not aware, there's a set of sidecar containers that CSI uses, and those sidecar containers used to expect their role definitions to be defined in Kubernetes. We're moving away from that model to having the RBAC definitions defined inside the Sidecar containers as YAML files that need to be deployed. Just a heads up if you do any sort of CSI volume development. Next up is implementing CSI pod inline volume support. We started on this but did not complete it, so we're going to push this to next quarter.
Yep.
Okay, next up is PVC namespace transfer design, which is required for cloning. Does anyone have an update on this? Looks like a design doc was created.
He moved it to there's a cap, moved it under enhancements.
Okay. Okay.
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. You can hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I'm just want to add the proposal is already there, and we start reviewing it, and kind of relevant to this and data population. We have a readiness proposal and discussed in a snapshot meeting, and we will also put it on the community repo.
Got it. So we'll, do we want to mark it as completed for this quarter or started?
No, it's not completed, no.
I mean, in terms of design, so it sounds like the design started.
Yeah,
okay.
So kind of in progress or in review, yeah.
Okay, sounds good. And then you mentioned the work for data population as well. It sounds like that.
Yeah, the main part is the readiness feature, for data population, and also relevant to snapshots and clone.
Cool.
By the way, I don't think a snapshot can be done. There are still a few things we probably need to finish before we can consider it's done.
Done for this quarter. Is there anything else that we have remaining for this quarter?
Oh, this quarter? No.
Okay.
Then that's fine, yeah.
That's definitely far from complete. Definitely alpha. Okay, cool. So that gives us an update on data populators, both of which were designed. CSI Sidecar containers, splitting up driver registrar into separate repos. As far as I understand, this is pretty much complete. I think the only thing that's left is deprecating the old repo and transferring over the issues. Luis, any updates on this? Michelle, do you know how far along we are in that?
I think the PRs have been merged. But I think there's still repo maintenance that still needs to be done.
Okay. So I think we're pretty close, and this should be completed in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to preemptively mark this as done so it's easier to track. Support mount options in CSI External Provisioner was completed, and allow mount options for CSI volume in Kubelet was completed, and we did not end up working on this. All right, thank you everyone. And with that, we will create a sheet for 1.14. Feel free to get started on adding items to the 1.14 for the next meeting, which will be in 2 weeks. And this is planning for the first quarter of next year. I'm going to go ahead and delete all the items in 1.14, and we can start fresh, and feel free to add items. Where is delete? Okay.
Do we have any high-level idea of dates for the next quarter? Like when?
I'm not entirely sure, but I can.
I think all the dates should be on the SIG release repository.
So let's see if there's a 1.14 schedule published. Looks like they don't have a schedule published yet, but it'll show up here when it's ready.
Okay.
Typically, it's code freeze in the second month, near the end of February is my guess, and then a release in the third month. So release would probably be about March.
Cool. Thanks.
All right, next up is PRs that need attention. So we have number 71416 added here by Puneet Yaraja. Is this person on the call?
Yeah, I'm in call. Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, this is my PR. This PR got this PR for this issue. This issue is 70990. Okay. If you check out my test case, I mean, for that.
We're having a little bit of difficulty hearing you, so if you could speak a little bit louder, that might help.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, problem in this PR is that test case we just removed the table-based test. Actually, it was in a loop like a slice. Okay, we removed it and we added in individual test cases. Okay. When we test this one, that part termination messages, okay, it gets it's in container status. That container status what we are passing from the test case here. Okay, whenever we are receiving the status message, okay, it's coming with /n only in GKE environments. I mean GKE nodes. For example, can I share my screen?
So sorry, is this actually a SIG storage issue?
Yeah, sorry, Saad, this is him. I looked at it briefly. It's nothing to do with SIG storage as such, I think. So
okay,
it's a generic thing that taught nothing particularly about SIG storage.
Okay. So maybe we can discuss this in the appropriate SIG. Would SIG Node be more appropriate or SIG GCP?
A SIG Node.
Okay. Does that seem okay to you?
Is it related to SIG Node?
Yeah, I think this would be definitely a SIG Node issue. Start there, and they might redirect you to SIG GCP. But I would start with SIG Node. In fact, you could probably, I'll ping a couple of SIG Node folks for you.
Hey, Saad. My understanding of this PR is that it's actually just adding debug statements to help debug the test case. I'm not sure if there's actually any anything to review.
Okay.
It's not to review. It's a kind of help. Actually, it's like a documented PR. We can consider like this.
So what was the concern that you had?
Here, this test case is passing in all the environment except the GKE node environment. For example,
so this test after being refactored is failing in the GKE node environment?
Yeah, before it's refactor, it's not even running in GKE, or not only in GKE, not even running in any environment.
Yeah.
After refactoring this one, it's running.
Okay.
But only it's failing in GKE.
Okay. So, and you're trying to figure out why it's failing on GKE node.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think, yeah, I think.
We found what is the issue. Okay.
Oh, you've already understood what the problem is?
Yeah. Can you check here that node E2E the details? Can you go? Yeah.
Yeah.
Full Kubernetes. Yeah. Link. Check. This is the expected message. Expected message is done without new line, but we got a done with new line to equal this expected done.
What's the difference?
Difference is we are expecting this one without new line. All other environment.
Can you make the test more robust?
Sorry.
Is the new line actually like bad, or is this a test issue, or is this a environment issue?
Environment issue.
Can the test just accommodate for the new line, like strip off the trailing and post empty white spaces?
Yeah, we can do, but I don't think it's a.
That's not the right thing to do. Okay.
If you check this log file, this filter through log. Yeah. Using the Kubernetes log for GKE node. Yeah. This Kubernetes log.
For GKE node. Any one of them, or?
No, not any one of them for GKE, because it's working fine in all other nodes. It's failing only in GKE.
Okay, let's take this offline. I don't think we need to have the rest of storage SIG involved with this. Michelle and I will follow up with you to help sort this out and see if we need to redirect you to SIG Node. Please reach out to us on Slack and we'll take a look at this offline. All right, next up is Storage OS attached device bug.
Yeah, this is Simon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, great. So this is a bug in the Storage OS native driver where if a volume was mounted outside of Kubernetes control, we're unable to block Kubernetes from attempting to mount the volume itself. So this adds a call in an attached device call to our API, which will allow us to fail at the attached stage. So storage OS volumes are attached to all nodes by default, but this just gives us the opportunity to block them out.
Okay, that seems reasonable. We'll take a look at this afterwards and go ahead and approve it. And just curious, do you guys have any plans to create a CSI driver?
Yes, so we already support 0.3 and 1.0. And hopefully I'll be chatting with some of you guys next week about how we can migrate our native driver to remove it and move to CSI.
Cool.
One quick feedback. Can you keep like the volume expansion also is included in the same PR? Can we like split that?
Yeah, that was a bit of a mistake. And I can definitely get that split out. It shouldn't have been in a bug fix.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll make it easier to cherry pick around if it doesn't have any feature code.
Yeah. I mean, we'd really like to get the bug fix into older versions if that's possible.
Okay. Do you want to send up a follow-up just to remove that commit, and then I'll go ahead and approve it?
Oh, perfect. Yeah, we'll do. Thanks.
Cool. Thank you. All right. No design reviews. There is an outstanding question from Cheng. How do you write a CSI plugin that works with both Kubernetes 1.13 and 1.12?
Yeah, I'm online. So I recently discovered that. So after we changed to the CSI 1.0 in 1.13, seems 113 can works with CSI v0. I found the one last minute checking from Saad, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, but for our storage vendor, so how do we say support both 113 and 112? But also, of course, we want to have still incorporate the CSI v1 instead of v0. But seems it's just either one of this, but we cannot not do both.
So the way that I would recommend it is create a 0.3 driver and create a 1.0 driver. So a driver that understands CSI.
Yeah, so that's the things we're trying not to maintain two code bases. So I know that will work. But so basically you have to branch out the code, and that also means we have to do the cherry pick if there are any things. First, if there are any fixes, you have to go to two pieces. Second, we do have automatic detection of what the user version is, but we then need to deploy the different version of the code, which can prone to error. So I just want to say, if there are any way to say just with one code base, we can provide both endpoint v1 and v0.
Technically, it is possible. Strictly speaking, you could write a driver that speaks or basically has both a 0.3 and a 1.0 support. The challenge is going to be that the sidecar containers that we provide are either going to speak 1.0 or they're going to speak 0.x. And so if you want to do this, you're going to have to kind of do manual work on these sidecar containers to merge the 0.x support into the 1.0 sidecar containers.
On the sidecar part, we are fine because our driver for the sidecar, we can just choose deploying the different image automatically. We do have ability to detect.
Okay.
But the thing is, protobuf seems not version, so the data structure definition is different for 112 and in fact CSI v0 and v1, something like a volume ID versus ID.
Yes.
And the attributes are gone.
So 0.x to 1.0 is not backwards compatible. The spec is breaking. And the only way to make it work is if you basically have a driver that will advertise both versions and support both versions.
Yeah, so
have callers select basically based on whatever version is the driver support. So the older versions will accept the older 0.3.
Yeah, that's what I have in mind. But what's the line before is that the protobuf is, I think, just convert to the v1, so they don't even have v0 in the same repos. That seems it's not version.
Yeah. So what you can do is look at, and this is what we did when we added the 0.3 support for into Kubernetes. If you look at the spec, there is a separate release branch for 0.3 that you can look at. Oh, not here. There's a separate release that we did over here. So if you look at the 0.30 tag, this is going to contain the spec of the generated protobuf for the 0.3 client. And so you can use this version to have a 0.3 client, and you can use the 1.0 version for the 1.0 client.
Okay, so things needed. Yeah.
Yeah, the only challenge you're going to have is in terms of vendoring. If you vendor
that's what I'm going to mention. The vendoring, you have the same version of the different version of the same package.
And the way that we got around that was we just checked in a hard-coded version of the 0.3 client into Kubernetes. So we have this one vendored, and then we have this one just hard checked into the directory. It's not a great hack, but it gets the job done. That way you can have two different clients. So if you look at that PR that I sent out on the Kubernetes side, that'll give you ideas on how to handle that.
I will look at that.
Cool.
Thank you.
No problem. Reach out to me on Slack if you get stuck.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, last item on the agenda we have today is KubeCon Seattle is next week. I know a number of folks are going to be there. Diamante has some space that they set up Wednesday morning from 9 a.m. to 12 for use by SIG Storage. And we were considering holding a mini face-to-face there. So feel free to add agenda items there. My availability on Wednesday morning is still unclear. So I will, once I have clarity on that, I'll let you know. But I think other folks from my team will definitely be there. So Michelle or David, and one of them can cover for me if I'm not able to attend. And I believe Brad is also planning to attend this. Is that right, Brad?
Yeah, I'll attend.
Cool. So if I'm not able to attend, Brad can probably lead this. In terms of calling it an official face-to-face, what do folks think about that? I think there is a sufficient number of people showing up that I think we have enough for a quorum, and let's just call it an official face-to-face.
Okay. Do we have enough space?
Yeah, so hi, this is Samba here. Yeah, the space is right now, the room is for about 40 people, but they said like if there are more people, they can extend it to 80 also.
Well, okay.
So, yeah, but I don't know if I have to confirm the 80 thing right away or that is the thing. So.
Where?
Yeah,
that room, is it at the convention center?
Yeah, it is at Radiance Hotel. Radiance.
Oh, it's at a hotel. Okay.
Renaissance. Sorry, Renaissance.
Is there somewhere in particular inside the hotel where it is?
The Renaissance Hotel. Actually, I'll update in very soon. I mean,
okay. All right, and then in terms of the Zoom link, we can probably use the same Zoom link as this meeting.
Sure.
For folks who are not able to attend in person, and that's it. So if there's anything that you want to discuss or in person, feel free to add it to the agenda. This is a half day, so it's not. We're not going to be able to cover as much as we do in a typical face-to-face, which tends to be a 2 days long. But we'll get done as much as we can, and thank you for hosting this.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, they said they can even go up to 1 o'clock because the other thing is 9 to 1 also for me. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Anything else anybody wants?
Is there a link in the agenda to that document? Sorry.
It's right here.
Oh, right. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Cool. Anything else anybody wants to talk about? Okay, I think the last thing is talks at KubeCon. If you have a storage-related talk, please throw it in here so that anyone who's interested can attend if they're attending KubeCon. All right, thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. We're going to do planning for Q1, so remember if there's something that you want us to work on for Q1, add it to the planning spreadsheet under the 1.14.
Okay.
All right. Take care, folks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.